This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
Mr. Lawrie, thank you so much for joining us. Great having you on the show.
Yeah.
To begin with, tell us, last year we had the slowdown in the US, and then came a series of accounting scandals. You being there as a strategist in IBM, how do you think corporate America has taken to it, and what's it going through right now?
Well, as you know, we have seen a global economic slowdown, varying degrees based on different regions of the world. Part of this was clearly brought on by the bust of dot-coms, the overcapacity that was built in many industries. And then most recently, we have clearly seen violations of business ethics and business trust. Now, I think it's clear that these are isolated examples, and not surprisingly, corrective actions are being taken, from different laws being passed to different expectations of what business leaders need to be held accountable for. So I think much of the excess that was built up in the system over the last, pick a number, 5 to 8 years, is now working its way out of the system, and we're seeing many important reforms in the business environment so that the confidence of individual investors can be restored.
What makes you think these are isolated examples? Because we haven't heard the last of it from what a lot of analysts have to say. Is the feeling in America that these are isolated examples?
I think there are some business executives that have clearly stepped over the ethical line, business ethical line, but I think it is a small minority and by no means is representative of business leadership in general. It is a few bad apples, if you will, but I don't think that is representative of the overall business leadership community.
Right now, is there a sense of fear regarding that in the US? In the minds of investors and in the minds of business leaders?
I really can't speak in the minds of investors. I think there's a general feeling that this is being exposed, it's being dealt with appropriately, and that confidence is in the process of being restored. Are there other things to come? I don't know. I don't have any of that information, and not appropriate for me to speculate on that.
Tell us about the computing industry, which you look after for IBM. The slowdown, obviously the signals were that the slowdown impact is getting over finally. Right now, what is going on in the minds of people who are actually your customers about spending, about planning ahead?
It's a very good question. We have seen a shift. There is no question that growth rates in the IT industry are lower than they have been for many, many years. We see a very significant shift on the part of our customers. They're much more focused on cost savings, much more focused on improving the productivity of their enterprises. And we think we've really seen the beginnings of a new cycle in the information technology industry, where companies are beginning to digitize not only the transactions in their enterprise, but digitize the processes that link many vital business activities together. So we're seeing customers make investments in those key areas, but they are far more discriminating and tough in terms of those investments needing to improve productivity or reduce costs in the short term. We're also seeing many customers conclude that it may not be their core competency to build and deploy and manage many of their own solutions.
Is that where IBM fits in?
And IBM certainly fits in here. So they are turning to companies like IBM to help them build their solutions, deploy those solutions, and in many instances manage and run those solutions for them.
Tell us, is it true that there is an impression, or at least companies like yours have to suffer from that impression, that digitizing or putting everything on a system is an expensive affair? That's the thought which comes from small businesses, and that's why probably they don't go for it. Is that a challenge for companies like you?
Well, I think that certainly there's an investment up front, But the payoff of many of those investments, the ability to integrate an enterprise, the ability to share information seamlessly, allows a company to not only be more efficient and productive internally, but allows that company to link with its customers, with its business partners, its suppliers, its shareholders in a much more efficient and productive way. Now, many smaller businesses are concluding that they don't want to make that investment up front, and we're seeing the emergence of what we call e-business on demand, or an e-utility model, where customers elect to buy this capability as they use it, as opposed to building it themselves and taking on some of that fixed upfront investment. This is a very important trend that we see worldwide, not only in small and medium-sized businesses, but increasingly in larger institutions as well.
Right. Tell us, Mr. Laurie, for IBM, talking about your strategy for the company, there is a school of thought, or there are certain analysts who feel that IBM seems to be getting out of their traditional areas of PCs, of hardware, and getting into services. Your recent acquisition of PwC being an example of that. Is it true that you'll actually shut shop on in those traditional areas and focus only on client services primarily?
No, we're not going to shut shop on that at all. These are very important businesses to IBM. Our hardware business is very important to us. Our software business, these are the elements that make up a robust, secure, scalable infrastructure. So middleware, things like web application, web transaction middleware, WebSphere, database like DB2, security software. These are fundamental building blocks and components of the infrastructure. What we are increasingly moving towards is what we call business value, where we help companies look at their business processes, in many instances re-engineer those business processes, then select some of the best applications to help automate or digitize those business processes. Customer relationship management is a good example of this, where customers want to build better relationships with their customers or their business partners. So we are making investments. We call that the business value side of that. But these solutions need to run on a very robust, open, scalable infrastructure, and that's where our hardware and software business comes in.
But a lot of people do think, do you personally share that view that the investment, the kind of investment you're seeing in services, or the kind of consulting things we'll go into now, has come slightly late in the day for IBM?
I don't think so at all. I think we're just beginning to see this shift in the marketplace, and therefore we increasingly are redirecting not only our own internal investments, but looking at other investments that strengthen our market position there. And you're right to say more and more of our business does come from services related to business value and services related to managing the infrastructures that are so important. So this isn't something that is being thrust upon us. It is a natural evolution of customer demands and customers' requirements to make their businesses more productive, and IBM is responding by delivering those capabilities.